What's up, everybody? So, if you have been paying attention to the news, which I highly suggest you stop, because it's just a bunch of most of it's just garbage, paid for and presented by those who are trying to show you a false narrative of reality, and they're trying to show you that this world is unwell. Yes, parts of it are unwell, and some people are unwell, but as a whole, humanity as a whole, we're doing great. But if you watch the news and believe what you're seeing on the news and hearing what those who are broadcasting the news are saying, then yeah, then what I'm saying is total BS. The world's absolutely effed, right? So anyway, so when it comes to this racism, craziness that's going on in the United States currently, it's not as bad as it's being portrayed. That small amount of people that have the most influence and control, the proverbial 1%. Um, Not only do they, in essence, own the media, the propaganda that is shown on televisions and broadcast on radios throughout the United States, the propaganda news, also known as mainstream news, bought and paid for by big money, and it has a specific agenda which has nothing to do with delivering the truth. And a lot of you already know this. So anyway, yeah. So those individuals, though that small amount of people, also send in what you might call a provocateur. So, for example, there's this white supremacy BS going on in the United States and parts of it, and there's so what's going on there is that the elite, so to speak, who own the media, are also sending in these provocateurs to kind of stir the pot. Yeah, there are people in the world who are freaking racist. There are people like that. But what happens is they send in you know who I'm talking about, send in the provocateurs to stir the pot and to get things riled up, and then they, who also own the news, send in the news to cover the story that the people, so the same entity, the same force, the same people are sending in these people to stir the pot, and then sending in the cameras and the news to check it out. So what's happening is there is a racism problem. There are people who have those feelings of hate, and of course, currently there is those individuals. So what's happening is that it's a small problem, but what's happening is that they send in the provocateurs and they make it bigger because they're stirring the pot. They're pushing the envelope, making the problem a little bit bigger. The news comes in and then they portray it as a problem that's this big. It's really only this big. The racism issue. Now, a lot of people are going to say that's crazy. Racism is a horrible, horrible thing. Again, I go back to you're buying into what they're feeding you on the damn news. No, you're gonna say, Sean, I go outside and there's all this prejudice and racism going on. Okay, well, we must live in two different worlds because I see love and beauty. Maybe I'm looking at the world with rose-colored glasses. I don't freaking think so. I feel like I have a developed ability to discern what the fuck's going on out there. I ain't perfect. I certainly don't have all the freaking answers. But I'll tell you what, I see more love, more compassion, more empathy from person to person out in this society, out in this world than before. It's getting better. I also have intuition about how it's getting better. But what I am actually viscerally experiencing in the world shows me it's getting better. So, anyway, yeah, so the racism problem, but you send in the people to stir the pot and it gets worse. The news comes in and portrays it as this horrible, the Nazis are coming back BS, and they're shoving it down your throat on all the news stations all over the freaking place. Boom, boom, boom every day. Boom, boom, boom. Hate, racism, prejudice, division, shitstorm America. That's what the news is trying to sell you. And if you buy it, you know that's everyone's on their own journey. But I'm telling you, it's a bunch of BS. So anyway, racism problem, provocateur, then the news. The next step is that people see what the news is showing. The problem is this big, And then people talk, they feel anxiety, fear, hatred, all these mixed up feelings, and then word of mouth and how bad, look how bad it is. Did you see the news? Did you see what's going down in this state? Did you see the riot, the gatherings? So then word of mouth, and then it like gets to like this big because of people's perception. So the news is saying it's this big of a problem. This is how it's being portrayed, and then word of mouth and fear and anxiety and paranoia, and then people think that the racism issue is this big. No, most people out there have kind hearts, and their minds are not screwed up enough with this crazy reality we live in, controlled by very nefarious forces. They're losing the battle. The war is almost over. The good guys have essentially won. It just has to finish playing out, almost like a movie. And we're towards the end of the movie, and this is the last little bit of the bad guys. It's like their last stand. It's Custer's last stand, and it's gonna be a beautiful, wonderful, amazing future. The Mandela effect, opening millions of people's eyes, opening millions of people's minds that physical reality is not what it appears. And then there's going to be the fear-based people that believe that, and there's nothing wrong. I'm not calling you out saying that you're a bad person, that you're dumb, or anything like that. But I'm just saying there are those who will buy into the fear and feel like, oh, this reality shift stuff, Mandela effect stuff, there are powerful negative forces making it happen. That's a victim mentality. Human consciousness has passed a marker. Our DNA has advanced to the point where we're able to perceive these changes. The Mandela effect is a reminder that the reality we live in is freaking amazing. The earth has some really shittiness. Absolutely. There's negative forces that are working tirelessly to make this place a shitstorm. And it's still beautiful in most parts. So anyway, so yeah, so you can watch the news and see the Nazi and white supremacy stuff on the news that's all over the place, or you can just go outside and talk to people and realize that most people are good, have good hearts, have good intentions. Racism is a small problem. It's a potent problem because it has to do with hate, but it's a relatively, when it comes to overall numbers, a small problem. Unless you believe the news, then America's freaking screwed. Your choice.